ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between.
He's your favorite Mexican-American Gemini from South Texas. It's Chibbi.
And she's the lipstick-loving Salvadorican from Brooklyn, New York. It's Raqui.
And this is Words and Shit,
the show where you get to know the person behind the poetry.
Brought to you by Write Art Out.
Hi.
What up, beautiful people joining us out in the interwebs land, and what up, Raqui?
Hello. Every time that intro really gets me going. Like, again, y'all can't see me backstage, but I'm just jamming. I'm like, yes, that's us. So excited for another week. Excited to be here with you.
I'm like my own mom. I'm like, that's my baby. Wait, that's me. But yeah.
Exactly.
So excited to share the space with you and to share the space with our audience. You know, these virtual spaces that we've had to create for ourselves in this new world we're living in.
No, exactly. Especially because, obviously because of COVID and everything, we really had to reinvent how we interact socially, professionally, even artistically, right? Or even within like a revolution.
The revolution will be digitized.
Yes. I mean, I feel like I think I saw a meme like every Wednesday in January we expected something to happen. And the last Wednesday of January is when Reddit was all up like in Wall Street taking $1 billion people's like money, right?
I know. I love it. It's like social media has allowed so many voices to kind of like really dominate spaces. I feel like there was something going on with K-pop stans last year that they like took down some racist. I just remember like it was a thing where like you can just rally people through social media, and it's such a powerful tool that, when we were in college years ago and Facebook first came out, nobody could have predicted like what social media does these days.
No, not at all. And then like I keep trying to like go up with the trends. So I'm actually on TikTok, right? I know. It's because I use Instagram so much for work. So I was like, I have to do like another social media to escape. And let me tell you, I love TikTok, but I definitely feel old, like period. Yeah. I don't know if I said that right, but like
yeah. I have a TikTok. I think I threw one video on there and then I got scared. But every once in a while I'll open it because there's some funny videos on there. But now I just follow people on Instagram that share videos from TikTok. So like I don't even need to anymore. Exactly. And I'm totally with you. I am of the MySpace generation that a lot of these newer platforms, like we were just talking about Clubhouse a moment ago. I'm a little scared, but I'm also really excited for this new generation that has kind of grown up in the social media era and is able to really harness the power of it. And our guest today is definitely part of the new generation. I think I was a nice Southern gentleman and did not ask our lady friend how old she is, but I'm going to assume by her perfect skin that she is of the new generation and a new generation of writers that's coming up and really claiming space in the poetry community. And
changing that, right? What is like that artistic poetry look in these virtual spaces? And I love that they're so revolutionary in that as well.
Yeah, I can't wait to dive into this conversation. So, Aris Kian. Aris Kian is a student of community organizing and abolition. She ranked 10th in the 2020 Women of the World Poetry Slam and 4th in the 2019 CUPSI competition with the University of Houston CoogSlam team. She is an Emerging Writers Fellow with Writers in the School and an Imprint C Cambor Fellow pursuing her MFA at the University of Houston. Her poems are published with Right About Now, Underground Journal, Houston Review of Books, and other places. Currently, she explores work surrounding her experience with academia, critical theory, and the Black imagination. Y'all show some love in the comments section. Show some love in the comments section for Aris Kian. Hello.
So good to have you.
It is so good to have you.
Yes. I know. Like it is. Your face is glowing. Your background is glowing. Like
you said, Chibbi said like, oh, perfect skin. I was like, oh, this ring light really coming through for the one time.
That's right. Hashtag no filter.
I've heard.
Hashtag 720, not 1080 resolution. You know, whatever
you gotta blur it out just a little bit. You know?
That RuPaul Drag Race, you know, camera going on. Oh my God! See, we can still relate with the younger people, Raqui.
I think, is that how I do it? Like, like this? I'm on TikTok, but it's just a whole different.
I was gonna mention that like our eyebrows are on fleek, but I think that's so like 6 years ago. That's not.
That's a little. It's like 2015, 2014 era for sure. But no, it's fine. We're still here. We're present. We're here.
We are so present, and we are so excited to have you on here. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
I know. Yeah. So let's go in.
Let's get our check-in, girl.
Okay, let's do this. Okay, so Aris, every time we bring in a poet, the way that I always love to like welcome conversation is that you're going to be sharing intimate words with us, you know, and experience. So we're all here as friends. So as a friend, I want to know, how's your heart today? How's your heart today, this week, this month, this new year? We can start from there. I know.
That's a really, really amazing question to start. My heart is very light today. It's been very heavy for like I feel like just nonstop for the past like year. It's just felt the weight of everything. And I think now I'm beginning to figure out what it looks like for me to actually establish boundaries and reclaim happiness and joy in my life. So like today, I said no for the first time in a long time. And I was like, wow, I feel free. And so I would say very light. That's how my heart's doing. How's y'all's heart?
That was a great way to answer. Like, oh, thank you. But yeah, I think that even just power of no, right? Coming from us, just reclaiming that no. Is so important. So I'm glad you feel light and feel powerful.
Setting boundaries. I'm glad you said yes to us.
Oh, for sure. I had to. I was like, you know what, this actually like this fuels me. I feel fueled by this. But like other things I have to just prioritize and other stuff. So
well, you two fuel people. You know, Ryan saying let's go boundaries. Omer made a comment that killed me as you guys were trying to be serious. I once read a poem Aris wrote. My acne cleared up the next day.
Omer, please.
Changing lives. All right. So it seems like some of our audience already knows you well. But for those that don't, we'd like to start off our segments after our check-in with a segment called speed dating. So we're going to ask you a series of questions.
Great.
Feel free to answer them as concisely or in depth as you feel necessary. To let your voice be heard. So let's just dive right into it. First up, how would your favorite person describe your poetry?
My poetry, okay. Exciting, important, challenging, long-winded.
Okay.
All right. I'm excited to hear your exciting poetry. All right. So what song has been on replay in your mind for the past like week or so?
Okay. Okay, because like my first answer to this question is usually Ballin' by DJ Mustard and Roddy Ricch. And like that is my song. It just feels so good, right? But recently, there's this song that I found on TikTok, actually, that's called Lemonade by Internet Money. I think you haven't heard it, but if you look it up, it's a very famous song on TikTok. And it's like, na 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 na. I'm just like, yes! It's just really good. I love it. Lemonade by Internet Money. I really hope y'all get y'all's coins. It's a great song.
I'm making notes right now.
No, I was like, look that up today.
You got it. Because
I do. Yeah, I love Ballin'. Have you heard the with when he has the orchestra in the background?
No, I haven't, and I must.
Oh, yes. Yes, it's mind blowing.
I'm so excited now. That's the first thing I'm gonna do.
You're like, excuse me, actually, I'll be right back.
I'll be right back. Give me a second, I'll be back.
Yeah, I need to make notes because I do workshops with middle schoolers and they keep bringing up things, and I'm like, Adele?
That song, I'm telling you. I mean, I don't know if it's the most age appropriate song because it has like kind of like talking about illicit drugs in the back, but it's a beautiful song. Instrumental is even great, so I reckon.
All right, I got it. All right, next question. What is your favorite dish?
Dish, okay. That's a very hard question because I prefer, like on any given day, to have a really good roll with butter, and that is not a dish, but like a sauce.
But it could be.
But it could, like, I could sit and eat bread and butter all day. Like, it's so good. Like a nice roll, if it's a Hawaiian roll, even better. It's Texas Roadhouse. You know what I mean? Just like the right butter. Like, so I would, if bread and butter counts as a dish, that'll be it. That'll be my answer.
It does.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I'll take it. We're in the South, okay? Bread is a whole meal.
It is, and it is, and that's just something we have to accept.
Yeah, like bagels are bread, and bagel with butter that's acceptable.
That part, and that's true. I would have like a bagel with butter. I think it's like honey butter every morning whenever I was like at school. I was solid. I was set.
Actually, while Rocky asks her question, I'll be right back.
All right. So our last question is, what is your favorite literary device?
Ooh. Okay. I would say my favorite, and it will change based off of my mood, but I think right now it is internal rhyme. Like it's so beautiful when like the end of a word rhymes with the beginning of another word and then just veers off. Like I love a good internal rhyme. It's like following the music, but you don't have to wait till the end to get there. It's just like wherever the rhyme is, that's where the music is. I'm just like, okay, I'll take it. I will literally do that.
I love that. It's where the music is.
Music is. Follow it. It's there. You can put it anywhere.
All right. I love this. Okay, so that was just a quick little sneak peek at who Aris Kian is. Ayokunle says, hell yes, on internal rhyme. I was on here recently and we were like, favorite literary device. And he's like, apostrophe. And I'm like, that's a punctuation. I need to do research. I
literally want to learn from Ayo at this point. Like,
teach me your ways. All right. Well, right now we want you to teach us your ways. So before we hand the show over to you, audience who is watching out in Facebook, Landia, and YouTubeville, make sure you use the comment section. Clearly, we're watching, so you can use it to show some love. You can use it to interact. You can also use it to drop your questions that you would like Aris to answer, and we will try to get to them. So use the comment section, y'all. That being said, we're going to bounce out, hand the show over to you, Aris. Bless us with some poetry.
Will do. Absolutely. Okay. Hi, y'all. I do want to say my name is pronounced Aris Kian, and that's on me because I know it's a weird like spelling. So, and that happens all of the time. I want to begin with one of my favorite poems that I got to write out of a prompt where somebody asked me if I could haunt any space, what would it be? And being a Black academic, like my book here, being a Black academic in an all-white institution, I said I'd haunt the hell out of academic spaces. I'd smear my blood over wooden bookcases, watch it drip on the covers, cover the names, and red wash these authors out of the canon. I am my own canon, which is to say I am a weapon that houses a magnificent destruction, which is to say I am my own poem. And what is a poem if not the weapon and the gun smoke? If not the trigger and the boom in the twilight after it's long gone? If not a song that clings to your chest at night? If not the words you can't forget? My spirit belts her own lyrics in the middle of a syllabus like a jazz chord. Ooh, middle of the syllabus, mixed jazz chords of a lesson plan. I want these desks to hum with every argument I started with the white professor on Dickinson or Williams, or whoever frost these floors in an ice cold hush when I enter. I am the one you won't forget. I am the one you warned about statistics. How hard it is to enter a room that never had a door for me. How I shouldn't be here. How, in other worlds, my name is chiseled into more gravestones than degrees. How black is both the weapon and the gun smoke. But if I walk through walls that tried to shut me out, then I must be the pettiest ghost. Ride the tails of my petticoat as I cast a lovesick haunting on every ivory tower. Where depression tried to shut me out. Where application fees tried to shut me out. Where the GRE works hard, my GOD works harder. 21 credits and 2 jobs were nothing but a soul search. I am a poltergeist of high price and mighty persistence. And what is a ghost? If not a holy hope, if not a wish for a finishing, if not a living reminder of what they thought they could kill. I'm gonna read 2 more poems. And these are 2 poems that are in my chapbook, Black Academic. I ran out, but I will, if you follow me on social media, I will have more eventually. This poem is called Circus Act. Black girl be the best magic trick with how she vanishes under a spotlight like poof. See the trap door that be the sidewalk by the train station, be the bus stop, be the backseat of a rideshare. What I mean is, one time I made it home on a phone with no battery and the crowd was unimpressed. Their groans echoing about the bleachers. Give us fanfare, they chanted, give us fire. For the tightrope walk with which be my nightly commute, I do that in my sleep. A man spits through the peanuts in his teeth and I disappear behind my closed mouth smile, speed up into the lamplight swallow, the flaming hoops behind my tongue, stunt 1. Performed in a continuous night, no matter the hour, when she is blindfolded, foldable enough to fit in a trunk or into the hands of a man she learned never loved her back. Black girl, be the best assistant. With how she falls victim to a show she never asked to be in. See how she contorts in order to fit through the tightest of holes. See how she be so seen, yet so unnoticed as she slips through the cracks. And the crowd looks around, gasps, she's gone, a roaring applause, awaiting the next illusion. Don't worry, she wasn't really there. And everyone settles in their seats a bit more comfortable. Don't see who is going missing one by one in the audience, dwindling until there is only you left with the mess of spit and shells around your feet and no one else to clean it. And this final poem for this section is called Away with the Sun. I'm afraid to have a son, so instead I'll birth a moon. I'd have to watch him grow so far from me, but so bright, his light rippling the mirrored surface of sea. I'd see the craters in his face before they fade in the morning. I'm afraid to have a son, and so instead I'll birth a moon. Because what is night if not the opposite of sun? How one always returns, how mine may not. And isn't it telling that the root of the word night is absence, like what's left in my hands when he's here one day and gone the next? Please, let him stay in the blue of otherworldliness, say the womb, say the sky, or even the sea. How many of my ancestors were divers, how they knew that the bottom of the ocean was better to touch with both hands than this ground with bare feet. If I were ever to have a son, I pray he'd be a moon, so I could bury him before the world does. Beneath a blanket of stardust where blue and only blue can touch him, his light, taking millions upon millions of miles to reach the ground where he dies long after I do.
And the crowd goes wild. Wow. Is absolutely right.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Now I need to breathe.
Yeah.
Can we start with your book? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
My heart!
Let's start with your book because you read 3 poems out of it and they are phenomenal. Your book is so tight.
Thank
You know, And I was talking to Raqui about it earlier, and like the art of the chapbook, right? These like beautiful, easy serving size books that you can just like take in a single sitting. And there are hints of Afro pessimism in there, but to me, I got a lot of jubilance out of it, and a lot of permission to take up space, right, and to just be. Can you talk about this collection, putting it together, and then also why you chose ultimately to self-publish the collection?
Yeah, definitely, all those things. It's so interesting because I kind of started the collection. First of all, it took me forever to decide to actually put a chapbook out, just like in the world, which is just wild. And I had so many amazing people in my life who I saw put out books, who self-published their own books, and it just kind of encouraged me. And the way I went about creating this collection, I realized that there was a pattern in my work. There seemed to be me following this kind of narrative. And it started with like, just thinking of the origin of my experience as a Black woman, but just as the origin of Blackness, period, especially Blackness in America, thinking of the transatlantic slave trade. So I have a lot of boat kind of imagery in my poems. So it starts with like the etymology of the word Black, and then moves into like the boat kind of that sort of journey, that sort of that beginning, and then it kind of resets itself with a new take on creation, on the creation story, which is kind of like a reset. We can now do anything with our ideas and our thoughts. The Black imagination it's vast, and so that kind of reset itself. But it still went into modern day Blackness and dealing with the intersections of Blackness, being a Black woman, being a Black young woman, and then I think you're right. Somewhere as I kept going, I was just like, no, this is just joy. It's just like, I appreciate all that Blackness touches. And so I think like towards the end of the collection, I started getting into, so I think that's how it kind of formed a narrative. And when it comes to self-publishing, I think at this point, I realized that the publishing game is a very strange one, and that people, it's a
to say the least.
And that like you put your work out there and you hope and pray that people like it, and then they might, and often you don't hear anything back, and you just kind of get the rejection and you move along. And if you do get an acceptance, often the poem is shared without any other context of other poems. So people don't read the entire journal. They'll read just one poem that you put up. And I think at this point, I'm just more interested in the collection of work, people reading a series, an entire piece, but also people who are excited about my work rather than just the journal itself. I wanted to just share it with like at least my first collection. I just wanted to share it with my community more than I wanted to submit it to like a contest or publish it elsewhere. I just was like, this is something for me and my people and all the people who I am obsessed with and that I love. So that was kind of my ideas with self-publishing.
Yeah, you could definitely tell that you put a lot of love, not only into your words, but for your community as well, representation into the book. So I was following when you were reading, I was following your actual, your poems. And I'm a geek when it comes to poets who use different formats. Like I love it when they are just so playful with it. And you are. Every page is just so different. And I think that in itself, like, first of all, it was great to hear you read. Wow. I'm sorry. I'm just like, wow, it was amazing. Even if, this whole idea of like taking space up in academia, right? And I love how you are so playful about your words taking up space. And then it just so happened chance, right? Of that the pages are white and then like your words are Black, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, always. Yeah. Always. I always think about like literally the actual act of writing and printing that looks like physically. It's a trip and an experience to say the least.
Yeah, but I would definitely think that not only are the words are Black, just like because of who you are and how you write, but because of the ink too. But it's just great to see how you're taking up space and creating this canon. Like what you said, you are your own canon, you are your own poetry. And this is basically like a love letter. And it reminds me of like Toni Morrison, you know, because Toni Morrison definitely like writes to love to Black people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another way.
And that's exactly the kind of framework I had, especially with this collection, with naming it Blackademic. It's aware of the confines it finds themselves in. But I'm very much interested in thinking about like, who am I writing for and why? And often I'll find myself trying to get lost, and especially with my program. I love my program, but find myself trying to like push like my images and trying to be as specific as possible. And I tend to lose clarity for myself and for the people I'm writing for. And so with this collection, I was like, no, this is something that's for people, with people, by people. And so I'm like, I was really trying to ensure that like, not only was I being true to my own writing, but I was being true to the people who I want to speak to, for sure.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful collection. So like when she gets more in stock, y'all go get it. Let's dive into that idea of taking up space, especially in academia. You are getting your MFA from the University of Houston, and woo woo! I don't know mascots, so I'm just gonna.
Well, remember we went over this. So it's the right.
Indeed, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, you know. I went to UT. I had no school spirit. But you are in a space that has been historically, and I think still continues to be, predominantly cis white men, both in the classroom and in the textbooks. You know, how has it been as a Black woman inhabiting this space, you know, for yourself? And how have you been able to kind of like stay true to you, your identity, your culture, your writing, while still navigating an MFA program?
Yeah, it's interesting because like while I think I was the only Black person in my cohort coming in. The program is getting increasingly more, it's like more applicants of color are applying and getting accepted and coming, which is really exciting. But I think as far as the framework of the university, it is always going to be like, it's always going to uphold a lot of white supremacist values and a lot of white supremacist ideologies. And navigating a space where the MFA program in essence is supposed to allow the writer to have time and space to write. And the individualism of that is not community focused. It does not focus on people and making a change. It focuses on the self, what the self needs. And while that is not inherently racist, that when that happens, and all of the people who are applying or going there are not focused on the community outside of them, then that perpetuates racism, that perpetuates capitalism. And so my challenge being in an MFA program as a Black woman is wanting to bring my communities in and wanting to bring the university out and into the community. And that's very hard to do when it's a very individualistic kind of place, like focus on you, take what you need. So like I'll find myself wanting to do projects that are like, I want to talk to the class about slam. I want slam to be something that is respected in these walls, which is primarily Black and brown people at this point. And I have to figure out if I'm using my time to focus on something that I already know and love, or am I going to use my time to focus on something that I'm not aware of, that's going to strengthen me, that my professors know, which aren't the things that are in the community or thinking about people of color specifically. So that's been my balance of trying to figure out, am I taking up space just as an individual, or am I taking up space and bringing all of my communities with me?
That's brilliant.
It's so strange to me because it's like whenever I'm talking to other writers, they always mention how like when like the best work that they do, or when they feel like they're really producing great work, is when they're in tune with their community or have a community of writers to work with, you know, and work alongside and things like that. So that idea of like individualism superseding community, just that's so weird.
The idea of individualism is a vast one, because yes, it might be like, hey, here's a community of writers, but when you look at the community of writers, they're all in the MFA program. They were all able to afford the application. They were all, these are all people who are now getting paid to do writing. And when you look at the cohort and you see that it's primarily white or primarily male or things like that, like, who is that? Like, that is an individual kind of group. It ignores so many other groups. So like, it does have community in it, but which communities are being left out? Which communities are out of the conversation? So it's a very challenging kind of balance. I think they're doing their best, but there's only so much you can do whenever you are in the structure of a university that is meant to ostracize and meant to keep certain people in.
Yes. Wow. I think you just like kind of summed up so beautifully. And so the ways that how academia and these like white spaces really continuously try to divide you, right? To like strip away that community feeling, or even in a sense, I feel sometimes like, especially grad school, they tend to want to haze you in a certain way, right? I know, like, I feel like they're trying to strip who you are so they can be like, this is how we are as an institution, and we want you to be producing like this. And it's like, especially like students of color are constantly like, no, I carry my home and my family with me. My community
exactly.
with me.
And it's so interesting because like, it's so fascinating when there's like really amazingly like passionate people in the program who are like trying to make this change, right? Like, my professors are amazing. I have a lot of amazing people in my cohort. I love them to death. And it's like, does it take so many people going in and out to like finally move it? Or is it, because like it's step by step, because I'm still learning 19th century literature and I'm still like begging for like Black professors, and I'm still like, so it's like, while they are doing their best, there are still these just like tiny little things that are like, this, if we do not break this, we are going to be the same. And so I'd rather not just be a singular person who made it in there and just leaves out and doesn't do anything with that or try to make any sort of change. So that's just the goal. That's just, I don't know if I'll change anything, but at least plant the seeds.
Yeah, that's what you can do. Yeah. And I know that when you're talking about like spaces, right, and building community, this is not just only for academia, right? Yeah. Let's talk about these virtual spaces, because now you have Twitter and TikTok where you can actually create communities, right? Yeah. Virtual communities with other people that you don't know, right? So I've heard that you are like about Twitter. So let's talk about
Let me preface this conversation with Twitter scares the shit out of me. Okay. I will open the app once a month and be like, I don't know what's happening. And I'll throw something into the void, because that's what it is. To me, Twitter's the void. Just throw it out there and who knows what happens to it after that. But I don't twit.
No, I like it because it's real time. Like, if you want the tea on something that's happening like right now,
you will get it immediately.
Tell us more.
First of all, okay. Let me begin by saying that I, for one, have two Twitters. One that is just for the general like public, that's just like, oh, my poet self and my like funny self. And then I have like an existential Twitter, which is just like all of the friends who want to follow me, and I'm just like tweeting into the void, and they're like, yeah, void, we're the void too. Like that sort of energy. I really love the space of like, I was talking to one of my friends on Twitter about this, about how her name is Mary Claire. We were talking about using social media as a way of like, it's almost a community building thing in which sharing becomes a practice. There's a lot of things that we keep inside. There's a lot of things that we feel is taboo to talk about or to be open about. And Twitter, this void, allows you to throw it into the atmosphere, and people can either see it and leave it alone, or they can agree with you. And that affirmation sometimes just feels very good, to be like, wow, you feel me, you see me, you hear me, which is why I love it so much. I also love Twitter because it's just the funniest people in one place. Like, it's you got all the jokes right here. Like, absolutely, I'm getting on Twitter when anything in the world happens, because not only am I getting informed, but there's people who are actually making light and like have like the ability to just like bring joy to something that's very tragic. Yeah, Twitter's it's an excellent way to build community. It's also very, very, very toxic, because now you have every single person's thoughts always. So it's really about, and Anna Maria was talking about this, it's very important to establish boundaries in that space, muting people, blocking people if you don't feel comfortable or safe. But if done correctly, it can be a very, very wonderful tool.
I mean, I've seen it. I believe it. I have seen Twitter and social media be used in very productive and inspiring ways and informative ways. Like I get it. I'm just overwhelmed, and that's my introverted self. That's just like too much happening.
I feel that.
But let's dive deeper into this idea of creating community, right? And using social media, using the internet as a form of activism. You are involved with Mutual Aid Houston, a group. It's a BIPOC-led abolitionist collective that's boosting mutual aid efforts within the Houston area. So can you talk a little bit about like why this organization means so much to you, and what are the kinds of things that you do with it?
Yeah, totally. Speaking of Twitter, with like building community, I found Mutual Aid Houston through Twitter. Like when all of the protests were happening, it was just a very singular place to rally all of these people who are willing to help protesters as they're coming out of jail. It was one of the quickest and easiest ways to find community. There was a hashtag, there were a follow chain. You can see who replied and liked, and you can figure out who was plugged into these communities. And so through that like sort of effort, I was able to join Mutual Aid Houston, and then we started figuring out how to ensure that like if there is a collective of people that are willing and hungry to be of service and be of use to the Houston community, we should facilitate that in some way. And so being a part of Mutual Aid Houston has allowed that to happen. We've been able to, with our brilliant core team, have been able to distribute thousands, tens of thousands of dollars back to Houstonians, especially in this time. We've been doing jail support. Omar Ahmed has been literally leading the jail support charge for like months on end. And so Twitter has been a space by which we can plug into the people who are actually willing to do that sort of work, and then take it outside of the virtual space and actually like put it to practice for sure.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much for doing that work, with you and everyone else and the volunteers that were doing that. That's like so important, you know?
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
I can't even take like it's literally just like Houston will come together. Like if with anything, I trust Houston to literally pull it together, because we're literally all we have. People do not take Houston seriously as a city, but literally they're like the most beautiful collective of people.
I love that. And with all the work that you're doing, and with them, with putting together this chapbook, with getting your MFA program, with surviving through a pandemic, as a woman of color, you mentioned to us previously this idea of radical rest.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? And also, what does that mean specifically for people of color, BIPOC people, to have the ability, the privilege to have this radical rest?
Yeah, that is a question to figure out, because like radical rest sounds really, really good, like in theory, and it is excellent in practice, but actually being able to do it, like, oh yes, also Daryl is amazing as far as jail support goes. Thank you, Omer. Putting it into practice is one of the wildest things. I think I was telling y'all earlier, I said no to something today. And it took me 15 minutes to just say no, like to actually let yourself not do things and to listen to your body and be like, I am actually tired, or I'm not working at full capacity right now. I need space to sit or eat, is a hard thing to do, especially when you see everybody else kind of like running on 10, people struggling, people like it is, especially as a woman of color, as a Black woman, people ask a lot of me. I've just seen that. And I would like to have thought it was like, oh, just because like you're really good at the thing. But it's like, no, we choose you for a reason. We are not asking other people for a reason. We're going to ask you. And for me to be like, I cannot always be the person that people call on is a hard thing. Especially when that is like your body's natural thing to do if you've been doing it for so long. So radical rest is something that like I am hoping to put into practice. There's the Twitter page, the Nap Ministry.
Yes. I know. I was just like, that's exactly what I was thinking about. Sorry.
That page just drags me by my ankles because it's just like, I said no to 4 things today. I took a nap and I'm like, wow, amazing. Love that for you. Like, it's also like realizing like you need to really establish your boundaries and not disrespect your boundaries, which is like, okay, yeah, drag me again. Like that is just so real. And I think that doing that sort of emotional work within oneself, restructuring this Protestant work ethic of America is super important. Like that this was not always the way it was supposed to be. Now we've built this, and so we can demand that it looks different. That's something I learned from Lois Gaio. It's just like, no, imagination is key. We can destroy all of this and start over. And so that's literally the practice that I'm trying to inhabit of like rest can look like productivity can look like rest. And so that's like the goal.
So much truth there. So much truth. I'm not a napper,
Really?
but I took a 30-minute nap today. It happened because my body just doesn't know how to stop once it gets going.
Very fair.
But my husband is an avid napper. And, you know, we talk so much about how like that's such a healthy and important part of being productive is knowing when to just kind of like, okay, I need 2 hours to just boom.
Exactly.
And then I'll be back stronger and better and keep going.
Right.
So
I love naps too. Like my mom is always just like, how do you just nap like standing up? You know, kind of like I can nap literally anywhere. It's kind of ridiculous. But I also want to talk about like, yes, if we don't listen to our bodies, how much we exhaust our bodies, especially as like people of color, women of color, queer, you know, POC, and especially like Black women too, just like carrying all that exhaustion and tired, you know, just feeling tired on your body, you know, and when you don't listen to it, that's when, you know, you just kind of fall apart. Like I know that my body's like, if you don't rest, we will make you rest.
Yeah, that part. Yeah, that part. Like I know, like and it was really ridiculous for like 2019 and 2020. I was keeping a sick journal because I was getting sick like once a month, in which I was overworking myself. And I was like, maybe this is a problem. But then it was like early 2020. We were going to CUPSI with the CoogSlam team. And I was going to work the rodeo. And then I'd just done WAUPs. And I was also in my second semester of grad school. And I was also working at the Hobby Center. And I was also working for WITS. And I was like, okay, y'all, I'm going to be sick in March. Like I already... I was like, I'm going to be sick in March. That's going to happen. And then the pandemic hit. And all of the results of the pandemic. And I would literally take all the sickness if it meant everybody could be alive. But that forced stop allowed me to be like, oh, I'm doing way too much. My body is overwhelmed. It forced me to stop and not do anything. And I was not sick for like 7 months, like prior, like all the time after that moment, I was like, what have I been doing to myself for the past couple of years, and why has rest not been a part of that? And so I think allowing myself to listen to my body and this time inside this virtual space of like, you are in your home and you're allowed to carve out your own schedule for an hour. At least some people, I have the privilege of being in school, so that I can able to like carve out the time around my classes, has been just revolutionary, been a blessing.
Yeah, because talk about like you were going to school and doing your MFA program during a pandemic. I applaud like students like you, because that's the resilience, the energy that you have to put through it on top of like all these anxieties. It is it's mind-blowing. So you said you had a TikTok. I was wondering, do you have a nap journal? Do you take like your notes of when you take naps?
That's an excellent idea. I do not have a nap journal. I should probably get a nap journal. That's so smart. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so you can talk like being protective and the energy, right? Because I feel like this journal that's you want to reverse it and see what that rest looks like.
I love that for me. I am going to literally make a nap journal. That's beautiful.
My husband and I, we talk about productivity in terms of ticking boxes, right? Nice. And so there is definitely in my husband's planner a snoozle box that needs to be ticked every day. You know, it's part of the productivity. So props to you, Raqui, for, dropping that little nugget of wisdom, that little gem, little pearl. Let's switch gears a little bit, because you mentioned Lois Gallo.
Yeah.
You talked about Omar Ahmed.
Yeah.
You talk about CoogSlam and the university slam team. For those that don't know, CUPSI is the poetry slam league, for lack of a better word, in the university setting. So for people that don't know, Texas runs deep, y'all, when it comes to connections and poets and 20 cars deep. Okay. So can you talk a little bit about, the Texas poets that kind of influence you and your work? And if you want to shout them out, say who too, but how and why?
Absolutely. I will absolutely. First of all, let me just read from the back of this book. I labeled as many as I could. Cause like all of my writing communities, I just have to shout out, like CoogSlam has been amazing. It was started by Muhammad and Jazib. They are literally just, they pioneered a slam space in Houston, in University of Houston. And they had the coach, our coach, RJ Wright, who has been just a blessing, a gem to me in my writing. And we also had the coach, our assistant coach or co-coach, Jackson Neal, who was a youth poet at the time, but was like light years ahead of where we were at. And he like literally revolutionized how we thought about writing and how we wrote. Houston heavy hitters. We got Ebony Stewart, Lois Gallo, Amir Safi, Omar Ahmed, Ryan McMasters, Ayokune Falomo. Literally, we have like the Right About Now poetry space is just killing it when it comes to just like new poets. I like stepped into the space and they embraced me, and I was alongside like Lachelle, the shooter, and Ruby. Like they are killing it, and literally just like hopped in. And I'm like, I have so much to learn from these poets, but also poets that are like not necessarily Houston, but definitely Texas. Chibbi, you are on that list. Ariana Brown is literally has done everything for me. She's been so helpful. Deborah Deep Mouton, like literally Houston is stacked. Like it's literally ridiculous. Hold on, I feel like I'm missing names. Give me like half a second.
It always happens where you're like 2 hours later, you're like, oh my God.
I know, and I feel like I'm missing somebody. But also just like all my poets that like support me in the CoogSlam space. So that's like Adriana Salazar and like Dalton Swink. Like literally people who are in the CoogSlam space are like, we are growing with each other. And like, I'm just so thankful for the poets that like added me to their community and like continue to uplift me. So yes, if I didn't say your name, I love you, and you know who you are, and you know that I am obsessed with you more than likely. But yes, those are my people. I'm just so thankful for all the people who like really like upheld me. Oof. I am literally nothing without my amazing poetry community.
I love that, and I've definitely had the privilege to drop in on a couple of CoogSlam events, and y'all are tight knit and gas everybody up, and just very supportive of continuing, which I think is such a wonderful thing to see in a university setting, in a youth thriving setting, you know, space to
Lupe
really,
Mendez. Oh God,
Lupe Mendez.
So
we can't go.
Really amazing. Sorry, go ahead.
The godfather of Houston poetry.
Literally, Lupe and Jasmine are like, okay, adopt me, or like, what can we do? For sure.
So let's talk about, you mentioned Right About Now, which is a writing community out of Houston, and also now a social media giant in terms of YouTube and Facebook and their presence in terms of uplifting new voices, or all voices really in the poetry community. I forgot to ask if we can, we know you posted it on Facebook. We can talk about this. So Right About Now is starting a new literary magazine that is specifically focused on showcasing Black voices.
Yes.
And for those that don't know, Miss Aris is going to be the new and first editor-in-chief of this literary magazine. So tell us about the project, how it came to be, and what it means for you or to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Amir Safi is literally the backbone and of like this space Right About Now, and recognized that like while Right About Now does so much excellent work putting people of color forward on a platform, gives them a space, he recognized the challenge of Black Lives Matter, what they were challenging of corporations, organizations, individual people, of like, you need to be doing more. And while people love Right About Now, he was like, nope, we still need to be doing more. And so he wanted to spearhead this idea of having a Black literary journal, a journal that amplifies Black voices, and that comes along with a poetry prize. So if you submit to the journal, it can come with a prize. And he was like, wow, this is an amazing thing. I know that I should not be dealing with this, handling this. This is not for me. This is not a voice that like I need to be a part of. So he reached out to me and asked if I would be willing to be the editor. And of course, because I think it's brilliant, I said yes. And I'm so excited. So we have brilliant readers who are going to be able to read this work and read everybody's work and be able to put together this amazing accumulation of Black voices and Black poetics. And I'm just really excited about what that's going to look like. We are really, really excited. Thank you for bringing that up.
Do you have any details on like how the project is developing, when submissions are going to be open, like just anything? I know it's in its
not so much right
stages.
now. Not so much right now. I think we're hoping. Amir was going to. I'm saying March. I'm thinking around March it might open up, and there'll be time for people to submit, and then we'll close submissions, and then we'll have a couple of weeks to deliberate, and then come up with the winner, and then announce all of the folks who are in the journal and drop the journal. So that's going to be a time.
Ooh, and we got a great question in the audience. Yeah. Is it a Texas specific project or Black Writers Anywhere?
No, it is Black Writers Anywhere. It is a journal that does celebrate the South, because we are in the South, but all Black voices come through. We love all of them. So ladies, gents, they, thems, all of the folks, non-binary folks, please, please, please send your work. In fact, this is very premature. We have not dropped the announcement, but like, it's fine. It's fine. That'll be announced soon, where people can submit, because like we're just really excited about being able to have this platform and amplify Black voices more than Right About Now already does.
Yeah, I don't see anyone more deserving, to handle such like care and words of, you know, these writers, you know. I think it's a perfect way. Just to all circle back that you created this your chapbook specifically for your community, and now you are now handling the words and stories of your community as well. Yeah. And I think that also kind of goes back to like, yeah, you're just doing so much. I'm having such a blast right now just talking to you. It's just bringing so much joy. So, and so, you know, like often poets, you know, write and reflect about the current movement or moment, and they're almost like emotional historians, right? And I think that, yeah, so like how you're writing, how people will be submitting their work. Like, so what are your thoughts on poetry as an art form, like an artful form or archival work, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The best example that I can give like right now is like, where is it at? This right
here.
This is like everything I believe in. It literally takes a moment. Contra, Texas Poets Speak Out. This was edited by Christopher Martinez and Chibbi, my guy. And I see poetry as a one of my professors, Michael Snedeker, used this example. If he used it for a specific poet, but I think this is true for all poetry, that if the end of the world was today, and aliens were to come to our world and find poetry, this is like one of the best ways in which our human life is archived. I mean, yes, you'll have pictures or you'll have music or you'll have like videos, but like poetry encapsulates not just the physical environment, but also the emotional landscape in a way that only words can, in a way that musicality can. And so like with this here, it's like we're taking a moment and we're archiving it in poetry. And you can literally read this book and get a multifaceted, prismatic view of what today looks like for a lot of Texas poets. And so poetry as archive is one of the most important ways that I think I'm trying to approach poetry right now. Thinking about what is it that I am bringing to the page, and who am I carrying with me, and what emotional landscape am I ensuring gets to take up space on the page. So yeah, I think and not every poem is like that, of course, but I don't even believe in a singular poem. I think we're all simply writing one very, very long poem. And it's just like we are all like, every poem has a literary ancestor and a genealogy. And I think that if we continue this work of writing, we will be able to figure out what this human existence is. And I'm excited that I get to be a part of that legacy of all Black women poets, of all poets of color, of all poets, period. But specifically the legacy of Black poetics and people of color, right? It's Texas poets. I am a part of a legacy of people doing that work already. So I'm just excited to continue that.
I think you said it absolutely beautifully. And I promise that was not a plug. That was not planned, but we'll take it. It's that idea, not to harp back on, dead white poets, but that Walt Whitman quote, that the powerful play goes on and that you may contribute a verse. We're all just contributing a verse to this poem called The Human Existence.
That part.
So thank you for those very, very wise words in this very fantastic hour that we've been able to spend with you, to get to know you a little bit more, share you with your fans, because you have them. You have stans.
My people. I am definitely a stan of them, no doubt.
Okay. I was going to transition to closing now, but Io dropped a question, and whenever Io has questions. Oh, good. And she has a question too. Let's go with Io, and then we'll go with Raqui. Io asks, what critical theories are you interested in regards to Black imagination?
Oh, okay. This is an interesting question because there's a lot. My first brain goes to Christina Sharp's idea of weather, and that I don't know if I'm going to explain this correctly, but she describes the weather as like the climate of the world that we're living in as anti-Black. If we establish, if we understand that the physical climate is anti-Black, then we can take these methods of Black annotation and Black redaction and add to this kind of, or speak to what we want to remove or add to this existence that is already working so heavily against us. What are we doing to change this climate, or how are we viewing this climate, or are we archiving this climate as we know it? That's a terrible example, but that's one. There's also this idea of Afrofabulation, which it is.
I'm titillated.
I know. It is the idea that Black existence, Black beings are working for and against the white oppressive gaze. So it's like they acknowledge that it is there, they know it is there, and therefore perform for it, and also perform actively against it, which is just so necessary. And then I think any sort of, I'm not going to even lie, and it's going to sound probably very annoying, but I believe all sort of speculative fiction is critical theory because it analyzes our Black existence. It analyzes our American existence. It analyzes our earthly existence in a way that puts, that interrogates anti-Blackness and asserts Blackness. And so the idea of speculative fiction, if done in the vein of Afrofuturism, it is literally all that it's not all that you need. Please do your reading. It's one of the best ways to think about the Black imagination. What spaces are we allowing ourselves to be in? What future are we imagining for ourselves? Can we see something other than what is right now, while still acknowledging that right now needs to change? There's this idea that like, oh, future, we can just kind of like move towards the future. It's like, no, you cannot do that without having an awareness of what is happening right now. So yeah, please, I am a terrible example of like explaining things, but Christina Sharp, his name is Tavia Nyong'o. And then of course read M Archive. And I know you've read M Archive. To me, that is critical theory, and it is speculative fiction. So yeah.
That's great. Awesome. So I think maybe this can wrap up everything. So we can close, but you're talking about this legacy of Black poetics, and I'm still stuck on your line about like your poetry having a genealogy and there's just like ancestors. Mind blowing. So I just want to know, like, how do you want your legacy to be, or how do you see your legacy contributing to these Black poetics?
That's a very interesting question. I don't know if I've envisioned a legacy for myself necessarily. And perhaps it is because I am a baby in this game. I'm very, very new to poetry, period. But I think right now, how I envision my legacy is that I hope that in every time I read a poem or am a part of a slam or doing a workshop or alongside other poets and writers and people, I would hope that even if my work is not the best in the room, even if my work doesn't win the whatever award prize, that my work is actively asking questions that need to be asked and force writers to be more critical thinkers and better writers. I would hope that my writing pushes the people alongside of me. That's how I used to think of myself in the slam. I used to say, like, even if I don't win the slam, when I walk in the room, everybody needs to be like, oh, shoot, let me change my poem. Like, that was the goal. I want to at least be pushing myself enough or excited about my work enough that other people get more excited about their work and continuing this lifelong poem that we're making.
I love that. And even though you describe yourself as like a quote unquote baby poet, your work is well into adolescence and young adulthood, for sure. blowing people away with your wisdom. It was one of those, your work has stood out for a while. And it was one of the reasons why we reached out to you for Contra. It was like, this voice needs to be in this book. And also one of the reasons why we invited you here. It's like, this voice needs to be elevated. If you are, I don't want to say you're the face of it, but if you're the face of the new generation of poets that's coming up, we have a very bright future ahead of us. So
I'm excited for all that is coming, no doubt. I'm taking it all.
You're already brilliant, so I can just imagine just what more years of just writing is gonna make you.
And hopefully wish upon me rest as well, so I can continue this work, because I that's what I need. I think primarily
accolades and grants and naps.
Period.
Well, thank you so much for taking this hour to be with us. It would be our honor and our privilege if you could close us out with one more poem.
Absolutely. Yes, I will. And y'all have talked about taking up space for a long time, so we're going to end them with, everybody tells me, don't be afraid to take up space. You do not see how much of me already fills the room. First, their idea of me walked in before I did. Said, she should be loud. She should carry the conversation for us. Said, Black girl be a token I can cash out, be the Black friend I can reference when she's not around. My anxiety is always on my left. She thinks faster than I speak. My doubt, she's on my right. She'll take a compliment to chew on and spit back up. My morning, afternoon, and midnight depression form a line in front of me. Hold hands like the saddest game of Red Rover anytime someone comes too close. My fear is composed of three of me. Me number one had to convince me to come up here. Me number two had to convince us to write this. Me number three told 1 and 2 I'd fail in every line. There goes the extrovert who wants everyone to love me by the first handshake. I see the introvert who wants to go home when she finishes this poem. My ego. Okay, my ego is actually 8 Meg Thee Stallions twerking in the back like, bitch, you the shit. But my self-esteem is Tina Belcher from Bob's Burgers, like, but what if you're not? They tell me to take up space. They do not see that I am more than they could ever fathom. And what is God if not 3 of themselves in one? Am I not made in their image? If I learned anything from the Trinity, it's that godliness is having multitudes in oneself. Each one capable, each one worthy of praise and lovers of all of us. No one sees how long it took to love all of me, how I fill a room without having to enter, how my name has its own gravitational pull. They tell me, take up space. They do not see that I am a planet, that I contain a universe in all 5 of me. I am space. I can't take nor have it taken from me. Black girl, be down to earth. Black girl, be gravity. Black girl, don't mind making space for other people. Be lucky I share it with you. I didn't have to do that. Instead of telling me what to take, tell me thank you instead. Thank y'all.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. Just not to only read your poetry before to prep for this, but also just to hear it. Yeah. What an absolute joy. I wish you so many blessings. I wish you so much rest.
Likewise. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for blessing us with your words, with your presence and everything. Please check out Ballin' with the orchestra in the back.
Will do. I absolutely will. I literally will. And thank y'all for having me. I appreciate y'all so much. And thank y'all all in the comments. I love and appreciate y'all. Oh my God.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, if anyone is interested, make sure that you follow Aris on social media and all that fun stuff. That way when she prints more copies of this amazing collection.
Yes, I will have more soon. So please follow me so you can get one if you would like one.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you, Aris.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, Raqui.
Oh, Chibbi.
I'm taking all that in, and I'm trying to, we like to try and come up with like a word for like what that whole conversation was. And I don't know about the audience out there. If you have a word, drop it in the comments because I'm still taking it in. But like the word that kind of is circling in my brain right now is next. you know, the next generation, the next revolution, the next thing that we need to do, the next nap that we're going to take. Like it's this planning of like progression and moving forward. And I'm so joyful and hopeful that Aris is part of that progression into this next year, you know, and this next life. What about you? What's your reflection? What's your word? Where are you at?
I just feel like that was magical. So just like pure black magic, like puro black magic, right? But I also think that I love this whole conversation of just taking up space in so many ways and forms, right? You can just on the actual like page itself, to be in academia, to taking up space in this virtual space, right? And basically just like living that, right? This like lived experiences and everything to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves, but also being seen. So
I love that. Well, let's thank some people and go get some radical rest because it's been a day.
It's been a week. A month that we just started. Yeah, so basically I just, let's give a thanks to y'all, the audience that are here. You are amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you, for coming back, or if this is your first time, we hope to see you, more of you. And also the production crew. So we have Dominique. She is the one that goes about going here with our videos, making sure everything's like smooth. We can't do the show without her. And Chris Conde, basically he's the one that did like the music for our podcast and the show too. So thank you for that brilliance. And
make sure you guys, again, thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time or if you've been here before, make sure you do follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. It's Words and Shh. That way you can find out about all our upcoming shows. And we are planned almost through April. And I'm so excited to tell you guys about the people that we have coming up, but I can't yet. But make sure you follow us. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter.
Yes. And if you want to watch past episodes or even to watch this episode all over again, because let's be honest, like she's amazing. Basically what we could do, you could find us on YouTube, and you can also follow us where any podcasts are available. You can listen to Aris go ahead and speak her words all over again and just hear our conversation. So check us out.
Awesome. Next week, speaking of coming up, next week, the one and only, talking about Texas poets who've been in it for a while, Texas poets who've been winning for a while. Christopher Michael, all the way from Killeen, is going to be joining us on Words and Shit next Thursday, right here, 7:30 on the Right Art Out Facebook page or the Words and Shit YouTube page. We hope to see you there. Until then, y'all stay safe out there.
Bye. It was great. Thanks, friends. See you next week. Bye.